Hola, hoy voy a hablar de adquirir versus aprender un idioma. So we're going to explore a little bit what the difference is between acquiring and learning a language, and hopefully understanding a little bit more about second language acquisition will help you understand how to be successful in this course and as a language learner. Shout out to Tina Hargaden and Laura Ray White, two teachers that helped put together the ideas that led to this presentation. And this is a document from the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages called The Path to Proficiency. You can see up at the start, up at the top there, that Spanish 1 students are novice low, moving to novice mid, where they're just starting to be able to use some words, maybe some words and phrases, and most other languages memorize chunks of language. But as you move into novice high, and then finally into the intermediate level at intermediate low, you can start combining your ideas together and combining those chunks in original ways and using strings of sentences. Our hope for Spanish 3 and 4 students is that they can move into intermediate mid, and even intermediate high, and a few students into the advanced level, where you're using more complex sentences in paragraph form and more complex ways of expressing yourself. So think a little bit where you are on this path to proficiency and where you would like to be. And let's talk about how you can get there. This is a picture of me in Granada, Spain, at a little mirador called El Mirador de San Nicolás that looks off onto the Alhambra Moorish palace there in the background. I studied abroad in Granada when I was a junior in college, and this is a photo of me, I believe, in 2016 when I went back on a trip with students to visit. I was a typical language learner. I'm not a native speaker, so I was what they sometimes call a standard student. I started in 8th grade Spanish, and I did really well in Spanish like I did in all of my other classes. I studied, I got good grades. I kind of remember in high school cramming right before vocab quizzes and writing out each word 10 times to get it in my head for the next 10 minutes so I could do well on the quiz, and I did well. I got good grades and decided that when I went to college, I wanted to study to be a Spanish teacher. When I finally made my first trip abroad to Spain as a junior, I discovered that even though I had gotten good grades all through high school and college, and I'd been studying the language for about 9 years at that point, I didn't know as much as I thought I did. And it was a lot harder to talk to actual native speakers and make genuine connections with people because my language was pretty limited. I could do more when I was sitting and thinking about it and writing something, but on the cuff when I was having a conversation, it was really difficult. And a little bit disheartening, a little bit of a surprise. Again, I kind of thought that since I got good grades in Spanish that I was better at it than I actually was. We all want to know the language by heart. What does it mean to know something by heart? It means that you can do it without having to think about it, right? It's like natural. And so that's what I needed. I needed to be able to use the language in a natural way by heart, but I was getting kind of caught up on this thought of, wait, is that going to be in the subjunctive or the indicative? Is that an irregular verb? And trying to think through all the rules really got in the way of being able to just express myself and connect to people. So there you can see up in the brain, the rules are not really the governing part of your body that makes you express yourself and communicate with ease. Our brains can learn the rules, and that is called learned competence. So yeah, we can all memorize the conjugation chart for the verb star, where the accent marks go. What are the different uses of the verb stare in a star? When we speak without having to consciously think about those rules, we are using acquired competence. So that's different than learned competence. Here in this picture, the conscious learning, learned competence there goes up into our brain for the rules, and the acquired competence goes to our heart. Big difference between the two is that when we're using the rules to govern what we're going to say, it takes a lot of time to figure out exactly what to say, how to put our words together. So how can we have better acquired competence if it's not from memorizing rules? What is it? There's that green triangle that says language input, and the way to build acquired competence is through language input. So in this course, we're going to be providing you with lots of language input, spoken and written messages. So that's what the language input is, spoken or written messages that you can understand. And I would take it a step further and say that you're interested in, because if you're not interested in it and you're not paying attention to it, it doesn't really do much to get the language in your heart. Remember, it is normal to make mistakes when you speak and write. Quite a lot of mistakes. So as long as you try your best, don't worry, you'll make good grades. We just want you to be making an effort. to communicate and to express yourself. My college professor, Bill Van Patten, actually says that we should not use the word mistakes when talking about language acquisition. He calls them non-native-like utterances. Because obviously it's not your native language. You're going to have kind of a time where it takes you time to be able to know how to say those things in a fluent way that are more native-like and more like standard Spanish. Stephen Krashen is a famous linguist, and he tells us that language acquisition does not require extensive use of conscious grammatical rules, and it does not require tedious drill. So that's good news. He actually has 5 hypotheses about language acquisition. This is a little bit sciencey, so if you're not interested in linguistics, maybe skip this part of the video. But I think that they're interesting in that this really helps us to see the science behind how we learn a language so that we can be better at it. The acquisition learning hypothesis says that acquired proficiency comes from our unconscious internal mental representation of the language, a linguistic system that we build in our minds. And it doesn't come from learned facts, lists, or formulae. The comprehension hypothesis says that learning comprehensible messages is the cause of language acquisition. The monitor hypothesis says that in the beginning stages of language acquisition, teachers should focus on communicating, not accuracy, and avoid correcting students' attempts at output. The affective filter hypothesis says that language is best acquired when students are relaxed and focused on something interesting and pleasant. Your teachers are going to try to make all of our students feel comfortable and successful. And finally, the natural order hypothesis says that certain features of languages are acquired in a natural order that cannot be changed by instruction. And each student is on their own individual timeline. Some of us will be able to use the language faster than others, and that is normal and natural. Think about little kids. When kids are learning languages, their native language when they're little, some kids start speaking in sentences really early on, and others take a while. We would never think that the kid who is taking a while needed to study more flashcards with us or read a book about the rules of English. It's something that just with time and more input, all kids are able to learn language. And so all of you have learned your first language, and you are very, very capable of learning your second language now as well, and even more if you decide to. The most important thing that you can do to help yourself acquire the language faster is to listen, view, and read with the intent to understand. So please take full advantage of all of the resources that we provide for you in this course, but go beyond that too. Listen to music in Spanish, watch something on Netflix in Spanish, put on the subtitles for something, a movie maybe that you're watching in Spanish, because the more messages that you get in, the faster that you're going to acquire the language. And also kind of keep in mind that end goal, that there's a lot of things going on in the world today that require cooperation and understanding and communication from people from all over the world. And so how can your language skills be a part of improving that understanding between people? So it's really a very, very important thing that you have taken on by enrolling in this course. We're really, really happy that you're here, and we hope that you learn tons of Spanish.